Yes, I know you should judge every book by the book, judge it as itself, but I can't, I'm sorry, I am too flawed a reviewer. I can't read this and not compare it to its bulkier brother, that I like rather a lot. See, I am in love with the Stormlight Archive, with Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and as good as this book can be, it can never be them. I mean, it's still a Sanderson book, it's still better than most other books, but it's just never gonna beat those ones. In The Final Empire, the first book in the original Mistborn trilogy, there is Vin. Vin is a poor, malnourished, 15-year-old-ish street girl. She pretty much learned everything she needed to in life from her older brother, who taught her never to trust anyone, including himself, which proved true when he ran off on her one day. Now she lives with a band of thieves and con artists, surviving just because they think she's lucky. They take her along as their lucky charm. When she's with them, deals go right. People are less suspicious. It just works all a little bit better. Only one day they decide to pull a con a lot bigger than anything they've previously done. They decide to trick a member of the government. And this isn't like blustering officials government, this is like scary. This is 1984 to the max. This government, among others, consists of inquisitors, people who've had metal spikes hammered into their eyes. Yeah, scary. Vin's thinking, this is a bad idea, I shouldn't go along with these people. But she has no choice, she doesn't have any pull in this organisation. So she goes and she tries her luck like always. And it works. Or it seems to. Vin doesn't realise, but as our title somewhat implies, that she is a Mistborn. She has the power to burn metals and manipulate them and make things happen. She didn't realise that all these years, when she thought she was just a bit lucky, she was actually burning trace amounts of metal that she got into her system off her food and such. She was pushing and influencing people's emotions. The problem is, when she does this to one of the government, they realise, and they send an inquisitor after her. So Vin would be screwed. This book would be over in less than 100 pages if it wasn't for Kelsier. Even at the beginning of our book, Kelsier is a bit of a legend. See, he, as you can tell by the scars all the way down his arms, was the only survivor of the pits of Hafsin, the place the government sends all its prisoners to. And he thought until now that he was the only non-aristocratic Mistborn. That is, until he finds Vin. He manages to help her escape this inquisitor, and he takes her away from the band of thieves she was living with. He tells her that she too can be a Mistborn like him. He will train her in the uses of all the metals. See, he has a plan, and if she'll join him, he wants to take down all the inquisitors. He wants to take down the whole of the Final Empire. The first reason to say this book is amazing is the magic system, the burning of metals. See, by taking certain trace amounts of metal into your body, by drinking a vial that has small flakes of them in, you can do stuff. You can do magic. There are metals that allow you to soothe or riot people's emotions, metals that make you strong, metals that allow you to see a few seconds into the future. My favourites definitely were the metals that you could almost magnetically, but super magnetically, push or pull away from you. You could pull your body towards something if your body was lighter than that metal. There's a brilliant scene in the book where they've kind of laid a railroad. They've put bits of metal along a huge path from one city to another. And people with the skill can push themselves off each different bit of metal. And it's almost like flying between the cities. It's such a brilliant, evocative scene. I must also admit that I was a huge fan of Vin as part of the plot throughout the book, having to dress up, pretend to be a lady, and attend balls. It's a bit of a fantasy trope, the transformed street rat, but I kind of love it anyway, just the awkwardness of someone who doesn't really feel like they belong, but somehow making it in the really high and fancy world. This also allowed Branderson to do something he does very well, which is make no side truly evil. There were people of the aristocratic who really weren't all that bad, who you didn't want to see die when the revolution came. He started to introduce these ideas that maybe there are other ways apart from Kelsier's blood and dagger ideas of toppling this regime. Maybe. The Inquisitors, though, were truly evil. They are the thing of nightmares. This idea of these blank discs they would have instead of eyes, just implied they had no soul, no emotions, no ability to reason with them. The spikes that would stick out the back of their head, just terrifying. It means that every page you're on the edge going, oh my god, is so-and-so still alive? There's a brilliant point in this book, and I could tell pretty much when everyone had got to it, their little Goodreads update, where they'd just go. The setting was interesting. It was a world where ash was constantly falling from the sky, as if millions of volcanic eruptions had happened many years ago and the aftermath still hadn't finished. It definitely started to make it its own very specific fantasy world, with the poor people, the Scar, being kept on plantations and being worked to death, with the aristocratic families and their different keeps, with the great image of the Emperor's Palace with its spikes. But yeah, the whole time I read it, I couldn't help comparing it to Way of Kings, which is just better. This book is great. If I'd read it first, I would have been shouting its praises, nothing else. But having read Way of Kings, a lot of the things Sanderson starts to do in this book, he just does better in that book. With the world building, it's just more intricate in the Stormlight Archives, with the storms, with the shelled creatures, with the little customs of women eating a different kind of food to men and having to cover up their safe hand. Also our main characters, Kel and Cal. I mean, they're both broken, angsty things with tragic pasts and yet mysterious superpowers. I think a lot of the hero ideas that are explored in Kel continue to be explored in Cal, but better. I don't know, guys, what do you think? Have you read The Final Empire? Have you read The Way of Kings? What do you think? How do they compare? If you would like to join us in the read-along, there is still time. I'm just about to start The Well of Ascension, book 2, but if you want to catch up and read book 1, we're taking 3 weeks to read them, so you've got time. I really don't want to appear negative on this book. I know that is what I'm seeming to do all the time. This is definitely an amazing book. I can't wait to start reading book 2. I just can't help comparing. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments. If you want to take part in the read-along, if you've already read it, what parts of the book stood out to you? What did I forget to mention? Let me know. Other than that, I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys. People who live as apparently female and apparently male in our still patriarchal society are often treated in certain ways and have certain expectations of them, and these lead